We will call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock. This is the regular meeting of council for the Municipality of Swan Valley West, held in council chambers at 216 Main Street West, Swan River, Manitoba, this 28th day of March, 2023 at 7 p.m. Present this evening, myself, Reeve Gade, councillors Brian Burick, Byron Zbirun, Terry Neely, Brad Kushniryk, and Raymond McGregor. Interim CAO Pat Ellingson is here, and as well, our videographer Jeremy Bergen is here. We start tonight at 1.2 because we have a councillor absent. Be resolved that the notice of absence submitted by Councillor Blosha regarding the regular meeting of council held this 28th day of March 2023 shall be accepted as received. Is there a mover, please? Councillor Neely, and a seconder, Councillor McGregor. Any questions or discussion on the resolution? Not, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. We'll head to 2.0, adopting the agenda. Be it resolved, the agenda for the regular meeting of council held this 28th day of March 2023 shall be adopted as presented. A mover, please. Councillor Burick, seconded by Councillor Kushniryk. Are there any changes or additions to the agenda this evening that you would like to see? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That too is carried. We have a public works report, but we're going to leave that off for now because we have a delegation under 5.1. They're scheduled for 7:05, so I think we'll go to that a few minutes early rather than making them wait through public works, and then we can hear what they have to say. So if you folks would like to join us, we've got some chairs up here for you. This is a delegation from the arm of Livingston. They're here to talk about fire protective services, among other things.
Well, I guess said my name is Mark Mag. I don't know if everybody else knows me. It's our administrator, Kelly Ray. In the past, we've had an agreement with you guys, and I guess it's kind of time to renew and talk about it again. And I know you guys are kind of going through some transition, I guess, if you want to call it. So I mean, we're here just to get that ball rolling and keep it going. And just to inform you again about we also have our road agreements on boundaries. I'm not sure because I know a lot of you guys are new, if you have been talking about it or anything, with that agreement that we got going there, and just to inform you what's kind of new with that, or the way it was working, I guess.
That expires in 21, right?
No.
St. Philip's expires in 21.
Yeah.
St. Philip's expired in
Oh, that's
21.
okay.
Yeah, ours expires at the end
Livingston
of this
is
year.
the end of this year.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have the list, and you probably have that as well, the list of the roads that it involves, and you know, our past agreement was, and I mean, like I said, I don't know if everybody's aware of what it was, you know, like any major work that whoever's turn it is notifies the other municipality, and then we usually work together to get the work done. I think it's been working okay in the past.
And it's a 2-year rotation. So last year and this year was supposed to be you guys taking care of the roads, that's winter and summer, but last year we actually did it. I don't know why. Okay, just,
We owe you.
it happened, you owe us a year, but
Well,
whatever.
and
Is that both summer and winter?
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And sometimes what happens, and I wouldn't say I'm at fault, down one or two of them is the ratepayers on my side, so I get the phone call unplugged. So if our grader's up there, I run up and just get it over with. It's just one of those things.
No names mentioned. I think I got the same phone.
Well,
And it could be,
yeah,
you know,
it happens on both
and it
sides.
does. I mean, to me, it's not a real big deal. If our machine is up there and it gets somebody out, I mean, I don't care.
And it depends too, like after a regular snowfall, yeah, it would be you guys. But I mean, if it's drifting and our guys are out there, and it happens in 4 and in 1, so in the north and the south.
Yeah.
If our guy's there and you guys isn't, we'll whip up it. It's not a
We
big
might
deal.
be.
It all comes out in the wash.
We could be 2 days getting there sometime.
Well, and sometimes
And-
you beat us.
Yeah.
And that's happened. You've beaten us to a couple roads and the guys are like, aren't we supposed to be doing this? Oops, you know. But I mean, it does work out in the end. It works, that agreement seems to work fairly decently.
So would you be agreeable to just extending the agreement we have come the end of this year?
Rewriting it for another, what
Like
is it, a 10-year or 5-year?
It was only-
It's 2016 to 23. My math is up. 4, 7. That's a 7-year, 8-year. Yeah, we could just redo it for another 4, 8 years. I'm okay with that. If you guys are,
I don't think anyone here has ever heard complaints about this. I think it works well.
it does.
If it works, it works. It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
then
so-
we'll just type up a new one and.
Yeah, just make your change to it for us owing you that extra year. And then it'll be,
You know, and some of the work that only was done, it wasn't a lot, and I think we split the bills on some of it. It was, there was some, little bit of culvert patching and stuff to do.
There's that one corner in your division though, with the river.
Oh,
I think it's
on the
on-
woody there,
Yeah, I think it's on your guys' side, but
straight north of, well, basically straight north of that Fort Crossing. You guys actually fixed up where the bank was washing there by Wills's there. It's doing that north of, well, being north of Lonnie Pinders there as well. So that's,
I'm not sure if that's a boundary road or not.
it is.
It is, so, yeah. There's an issue there that we noticed on our road
Actually,
tour.
I know, Swan Valley Watershed does a lot of your permitting and stuff, so,
I bet.
yeah, cause I know I had talked to them about some other stuff, because even for us in Livingston, we're in kind of a poor area, because, you know, we belong to the Swan Valley Watershed, but because of the boundaries there, they wanna ship us over to the Assiniboine, but they say, well, you're in the Swan River Watershed, so we don't wanna deal with you, so
Makes sense.
it's a little frustrating.
In that situation though, it would be easier if you guys took care of it and just billed us because of the watershed. Assiniboine is, well, and the Saskatchewan, Manitoba differences, you guys can do a little bit more when it comes to water, we can't.
What's happening with that road?
It's just the rivers starting to come into the road.
Cutting into the road, then, yeah. It's north of where Schweitzer used to be, yeah?
Yeah.
Instead of Lonnie,
Lonnie Pinder's in
Yeah.
there now. Yeah. Then there's just actually the boundary comes down and jogs around because of the the river pretty near runs right down the boundary, wiggles around there. And so it just the way the river's coming, it's starting to get pretty close to the road there. I think it may have taken out the checkerboard sign even already.
It was close.
It was close, yeah.
Did you say it's north of Pinders?
Yeah. I'd have to look at the map to see where the land location is on it. Oh,
Yeah, I was just gonna make a note of it.
yeah.
Okay. What would you like to see happen with the fire agreement? We're pretty open to discussion.
Well, you want me to take this?
You might as well, you know the rules.
Okay, so you're all pretty much new. I think I only recognize you. That's it. So none of you have heard this before. With Saskatchewan, we have way different rules than you do in Manitoba. So we can't own a part of your fire truck or fire like we would in Saskatchewan. So in Saskatchewan, we'd have operating and capital costs. So what we do, and what I'd like to see, is we would pay you a flat rate levy every year, X amount of dollars. Then in Saskatchewan, our rules are also different that when you are called out to a fire, you bill the landowner. If whatever your terms are, if they're 90 days, if the bill isn't paid in 90 days, you would forward that bill to me. I would put it on their taxes and I would pay the bill. So when it comes to a Saskatchewan fire, you would never not get paid for it, ever. It is always collectible. Either we pay it and collect it from the ratepayer, or you collect it from the ratepayer because they're gonna pay the bill as soon as they get it. So the fire board or whatever you call it is never on the hook for a bill when it comes to Saskatchewan. So we don't pay per fire like the RM doesn't. That lands on the landowner in Saskatchewan. So I don't know how it works in Manitoba, but that's how it works in Saskatchewan. And we can't go under Manitoba rules because we are Saskatchewan. So what the RM would do would pay a flat levy to have your services available to us.
It's almost like a call-out fee.
Yeah. Now, you guys covered half of our RMs, so Division 4 and Division 1, which most of my residents or landowners on that side are really happy about it because most of them live in Manitoba and half of your Benito Fire Squad lives in my RM. So they're quite happy that they can cover their own houses. By the time Highway 49, which is from Pelly, who has less training and stuff like that, get there, their houses would probably be gone. We already have a mutual agreement. So if Highway 49 is out at a fire and they need help, 911 would actually call you guys in anyway. We paid $7,500 the last 2 years for that yearly levy, which I think is excruciatingly huge. It's massive. For any other fire protection that I've worked at many RMs, usually $4,500 is the most we've ever paid, plus we own part of. So we would pay for other things. But for Kenora, in a mutual aid agreement, we paid $1,700 just to have them available to us. And then they collected on top if they were ever called out, because that's their charge.
And they have those fire departments have an hourly,
Right.
and if you guys have that, an hourly for truck and man or whatever, so then that's how, they would bill that
Ouch, yeah.
out to us.
Yeah.
I don't think that either of you would have been there, but back in the day, I was in Benito, and Benito had this agreement with Livingston.
Mhm.
And I believe it was $2,500
Yeah.
a year that they paid for the Benito Fire Department to respond. And then, as you were explaining, the
Yeah.
landowner was billed, and
Yeah.
if they didn't pay it, the municipality did. So
Yeah.
I don't know what happened when this was the arm of Swan River, and you have had an agreement with the town, I suppose, right?
We did for a short time,
Okay.
and then they multiplied it by about 100 for what they.
Yeah.
Yeah, they wanted like $33,000, which is just retarded. I'm so.
And they had, at that time, that was when I think, it was the first year you were with us?
Yeah, I was
So-
4 years ago.
Yeah, so, at that time, they hadn't been out into our municipality for 10 years.
Yeah. And same goes, like you guys haven't been to our municipality in 14 years. So if you think about that yearly levy, yeah, that's free
Well, it
money.
wouldn't be that long, because the prior to amalgamation, so 2014 would have been you had an agreement with the village of Benito,
Yeah.
No,
as
Yeah.
late as 2014.
but I think,
And then
Fire
after
hasn't
amalgamation, I think it.
Yeah, but a fire hasn't been responded to for 14 years.
Oh.
By you guys.
Oh, that's possible.
Hasn't happened in
Yeah.
14 years.
That's possible.
Because the last fire that should have been Benito's call, 911 system screwed up and called Highway 49 and reported.
Oh, okay,
It was a grass fire,
okay.
and that was 3 years ago.
So I'm hearing the $2,500 number. Is that something that would be agreeable, or are you thinking that is too much as well?
that'd be great, yeah.
Yeah, like 2,500 to me seems really reasonable. What I would ask is if you could forward your rates, or have the chief forward them to me so I can put them in the newsletter, so my ratepayers can be prepared, because they can carry fire truck insurance in Saskatchewan. I don't know if you can do that in Manitoba.
So I'll give you a little picture of our fire situation because it is a little bit in flux.
Yeah,
I sent her the article that I seen in the paper.
Yeah.
I read that one.
Depends
So-
which one you saw for how active
Well,
it was.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So we obviously are in the process of changing, like there was Thunder West Fire Department for a short while, which was covering the northern part of your municipality, where Benito was covering more south. And at the moment, they're obviously not responding to calls because Swan River's covering the area. So I've had the discussion with the Swan River Fire Chief. Their concern of covering the area was not have enough equipment. because if they took everything that way, then Swan River's left without. So shortly, we'll be entering an agreement for 2 fire halls here with extra equipment sitting around. So the thought has definitely been that there may be an opportunity for Swan River trucks to go out there again, but Swan River trucks won't exist anymore. It'll be Swan Valley trucks, which we'll jointly own between us and them, and it has its own board. So it won't be like negotiating with the town of Swan River anymore. It'll be just negotiating amongst fire people, which usually works out better because fire people are primarily concerned with fighting fires, not with politics.
So would
Helpful.
Benito fall into that same, or
So
are
far
we
as
talking
Benito-
2 different?
So far as yet, Benito doesn't, but we would make it work out. So what we can offer this particular moment is Benito's responding to anything they need to respond to there.
So they would cover both north and south?
Yes. And then the hope is that for the sections that are actually closer to Swan River, in time, a truck would come out of Swan River instead of out of Benito to try and cut the response time down some.
So right now, the phone number 911 has to phone is the Benito fellow?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I need to fix that.
And I think, like, I've met with Benito a couple times, and they had fixed that all at one point. Because whatever happened there with
Thank
911 not having the right number. On the
Yeah, but
Saskatchewan
I
side.
gave 911 the Swan River guy's number and the Benito guy's number with the map.
Okay,
So I have to fix that,
okay, and
yeah.
it was just a month or 2 ago that Jeff was fixing on it too, so who knows where it's at right now, or who
Yeah, 'cause I
changed
heard-
what last.
Cause Jeff is fire chief there.
Yeah, yeah. there's
Jeff
another
and
chief.
Benito?
Yes.
Awesome.
So, but yeah, we'll discuss a little bit, I'm sure from the look around the room, you're gonna find yourself a deal at a more agreeable price. Cause I don't think anyone here is out to overcharge. And that would certainly, I suspect, be fine, but we'll discuss it, we'll send you a letter.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, yeah, hopefully we don't have to come.
Yeah,
It's been good so far.
and I looked over the agreement that you sent me, and it looks fine.
Yeah,
We can just tweak it up and make it,
change the names.
and the dates,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and, yeah.
Yeah,
the
that was
price.
sort of a basic agreement that
Yeah,
we had for years, and it worked.
yeah, well, the agreement I had was Swan Valley West, the one that I had, that template was a little,
Oh,
wow,
that was different.
that's not.
Yeah, and I don't think Livingston ever agreed to that, did they? Or did you?
You know what, I took over 4 years ago, the place was a mess, I never did find a signed one, so
Oh.
the one I'm looking at is blank,
I
but
can't believe a municipality would ever be like that.
we're getting there. So, yeah, it's, we'll get there.
Yeah,
So I don't know what was signed or whatever, but we are from here forward,
yeah,
we try not
exactly.
to look back, cause you
Yeah,
can't.
for
right?
sure.
So we'll
Perfect.
start new. And
So are you gonna tweak and send to me?
sure,
Or did you want me to?
it'll be a couple weeks, cause I am like swimming over my head right now.
Can't imagine.
No,
Why would she?
Everything here is perfect. I don't understand how the Rick
Yeah.
could be having any trouble.
pretty little building bylaws, so yeah,
Couple of weeks is fine with me.
fine. Okay, I will get around to it.
Yeah,
I will.
yeah, and
And
if I
if
haven't
not,
heard
fire
from
me an
you,
email and just remind me, say.
I was gonna say, if I haven't heard from you and I have time, I can do a little bit of work on it and send it to you.
Yeah, and then same with the other one, the road agreement.
Yeah,
Just-
for sure. We'll work on
I
it
think
together.
I might have that on Word document, I might not gonna promise.
Yeah,
2016 was before me, so,
there's a lot of things I can't find too, that moving between the two of us, we'll find what we do.
or I'll retype it. Won't take long, so yeah, okay.
So what we'll commit to then is we will have a discussion yet tonight, we'll firm up the 2,500, make sure everybody's good with it. And we'll just find out these numbers that are in here, the 500 for the first hour, the 250, we'll just check in and see what the current rates are, if they've changed or not. And then we'll leave you in your capable hands, and at some point we'll get an agreement signed.
Perfect.
Sounds good.
It's certainly, they paid for last year already?
Pardon?
Did you pay for last year already?
No, I think I just invoiced, or did you pay it already? Remember you?
We put
thought-
it through the March meeting,
I
did we
think
not?
so, yeah. I think it's
Okay.
good.
Oh, good.
So, yeah.
I may just not be aware that it came, but I remember you saying to just send the invoice, so I remember I did
Yeah.
that.
Pretty sure.
Yeah, you did do that, I remember seeing it, but I
Okay.
can't remember if I got it through on the March meeting or if it's on the April meeting.
Okay, so
And if it is
it's
already
either here or
mailed,
coming.
because I know the mail between Swan River, it's faster for me to give it to Mark and have him hand deliver it.
Yeah,
And it
yeah,
goes
Because
by
it's
Winnipeg over to
weeks.
Regina and then back to you.
yeah.
Well, and sometimes to Kenora and back to Regina, but it's nuts.
We have the same problem here.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, so.
Anything else from anybody? Thank you for coming.
One more tidbit of information for you now. Saskatchewan government is making Highway 49 9 months primary. So our highways minister has already talked to your highways minister, and we want to start trying to get that information out to, I mean, all the locals that are trucking through. They would like to see that traffic that's going through Match Lake, like especially the big heavy traffic, slow down and go through Aaron Pelly that way. So we're waiting for him to get it in nice writing so we can kind of maybe get that out there, a little more information and get that traffic going in a different spot. So.
That'd be good.
It would be really helpful if you guys could send a letter to our highways minister
Okay.
saying that you'd rather see Highway 49 be primary than that
Just a
Highway
letter of support
5,
kind
right?
of thing.
Yeah, or 15 or whatever the heck that is.
57, isn't it?
The one through Manitoba Lake is it 57? I don't know.
Yeah, it is.
Well, there you go. So, yeah, it's just stupid that the traffic goes that way anyway. But it is just a pilot project, and the minister's promised us for this year he's gonna pilot it. The support for it is massive.
Did you say 9 months of the year, Mark?
Yeah, so I think we're classified as north, so that the 9 months it'll be, or when it's not primary, will be April 1 to June 1, April, May, June. Yeah, or June 31st, I can't
June
remember which it is.
June 30th.
30th.
Yeah,
June 30th, yeah.
so he, like I said, he's talked to the Manitoba one. They haven't put us on a definite schedule where they want to redo that highway. The information I got from him is they really want to see that traffic going down that 49, and then if it looks like the highway is, even if it starts taking some abuse that it's starting to, that they should get us on a 5-year plan to upgrade that highway a little
If
bit.
they could fix it all up like it is west and north way, it'd be great.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
What
Wouldn't
I-
that be nice?
what I get from this highway minister when I talk to him is that is a plan for them to fix that. They don't know when, as all governments never do know when they're gonna do something, but that was the sense I got from him is he's really, like you guys will hear it all the time too as well. Why do we have to worry about that traffic coming from a different province? And for this highways minister, he says, it's fantastic, we want these guys coming, because they're bringing product into Saskatchewan that we're processing and everybody's making money, it's all great. So he gets that economic feasibility of that, so I think it's something that'll be good.
So is it that east mile of 49 then, that right by 83, is there gonna be a question there till the border or what?
It doesn't sound like it. When I talked to the highways minister, our highways minister, the Manitoba guy is on board with it, so I think it shouldn't be an issue.
It'd be a bugger for 1 mile.
Well, it would be, yeah.
Well, I don't think they can do that. I think they have to coordinate it. In order to up one, they have to up the other.
Yeah, it's owned by 2 provinces.
Yeah.
so,
Well, and we forced that within Saskatchewan because they were doing that with the clearing the path roads, not connecting them to primary. And we had 2 clearing the path roads that were a mile short of the primary, and we just forced it, and they had no choice.
Well,
So,
it's sensible
as
not
long
to.
as the Manitoba guys, the other thing I got an email yesterday about is they're going to put counters out this year on 49. So it's really important that we get as much traffic going across those as we can.
There's log trucks bringing wood from, I don't know, Endeavor or somewhere up there, coming down 49 to the mill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's,
Well, and they're coming out of all over like the RMS St. Phillips and just north of Erin there.
yeah.
So,
I followed them right to 9 and they go
Yeah.
north again, the log
Yeah.
trucks.
yeah, because they won't go down the 753, the jerks, but yeah,
Yeah. Because they kind of go into nowhere land as well.
yeah.
Come down, trying to get, because they can't come down Ditch Road and they can't really go down some of those other roads either.
Yeah.
Only after midnight,
Yeah, well, yeah, it's,
with a snowplow on the front.
So, yeah, so things are rolling there.
so even once we get some more information or like an actual, it was actually already, they had it in right on their website that was happening. And I did ask them for another kind of a letter out to the surrounding municipalities, just so we can get that information out and get the traffic flowing where they want it to.
Perfect.
That's all we got.
Good to see you as always. Come again. Don't be a stranger.
Move your meetings to the day. Oh, no, this stays there, doesn't it?
All right, thank you.
Hey, we'll see ya.
Good night.
So we're up at 5-1. We will head to number 4 on the agenda. Public Works reports. The motion is, to be resolved, the written Public Works report be received. Is there a mover, please? Councillor Kushniryk and a seconder. Councillor Neely. So the Public Works' report is provided there tonight from the lead hand. We'll go through it really quickly and see if there's any questions that come up. We'll have to have the CAO ask the questions and get back to us. So the circle drive's repaired on the 140. The starter is in Swan with a rebuilt tag. So we'd had a question about where that starter had gone. It's here, and it has a tag on saying it's been repaired. We're not entirely sure how it got to be repaired, but it is here. So at some point we should decide if we're keeping that starter for a spare or if we're interested in selling it to somebody.
What's it, 5,000 bucks?
3,
The new one was 6.
but over 6. Yeah, several thousand.
Gee, at least top price for a rebuild.
Yeah. V-plow is installed on the 870 Scott's machine. I believe Chris has his V-plow on as well. Quote for blades, nuts, bolts to be sent to the office by Flammonds. Has that?
That's in already.
Yep, it's on there.
Okay. Quote for chips from Spruce Products and for hauling those chips. That is later in the meeting as well. That's for the landfill cover. Don and Bill looked at the rubber tire hoe in Durban. So this says it has a binding issue in the transmission in second gear. So I did talk to Don about that a little bit. He said it works good in first gear and it sounded like it would go into third as well, but there's something weird about second gear. He had a suggestion of someone he thought should take a look at it and see what the issue was, if it could be fixed easily or not. He suggested if it couldn't be fixed, it would certainly be able to be taken to a gravel pit and left there as a loader, if it can't drive around much, but there's something wrong with it going in second gear. So we'll have to get them to check into a little more and see if it's repairable or not. Certainly if it could be repaired, it would be nice if it could drive around and work, because it's go where it needs to go. Blade orders for the graders are in, the invoices and the checks tonight, so those have arrived. The new Schulte mower will be taken to River Road Repair for a quote on a repair to the gearbox. My understanding is that was damage done last year to the gearbox. So this is the start of the spring maintenance program to get those mowers ready to go, so we don't try to mow on the first day and find out they don't work. Quote for a wiring harness with a Schulte arm for Durban to be faxed to the office. My understanding from the lead hand was that that wiring harness wasn't working and they bought one last year, but then there was some issue of it, if it had been approved by council or not, and it ended up being returned for credit instead of being used, which left the lights still not working on the mower, so they're working on getting a harness again to fix the lights. The 3-ton and half-ton trucks were taken to GK service for a quote on repairs. Those quotes are coming up later in the meeting. We have to choose where they're going, what we're doing. Jason Barkman working on pushing back a section of banks and roads intersections. That was primarily in the Thunder Hill area, I believe. A new hydraulic hose was installed for the all-wheel drive on the JD 772. Now, if I'm understanding correctly, I think that's the one that Mr. Bobick spoke to me about. There was 3 hoses, and one of the hoses was leaking, but they're very, very hard to get in, and there's a lot of labor. So rather than replacing just the one, I believe we replaced all 3 of them, so that we don't have to pay all that labor again. The hoses were an extra couple, I think $300 each, an extra $600 just to have them done as preventative maintenance. It says here 3 of the GPS units are installed, 3 of 5. There's more than 5, but we assume that 3 of them are installed. It's working in the 870 quite well. The one machine, it doesn't seem to be working quite right, and we have to do a little repair, and I'm assuming from this list it's now also in the 140. So I'll have to check and make sure it's working correctly there. We have to install them yet in the mower tractors, and we also are giving some consideration at some point to buying them for the gravel trucks. We said to Cooks that we would require them to have GPS so we can ensure we counted the loads accurately as a spot check. Ditch clearing in Bonito should be close to done in Bonito. Safeties on the tandem, trailers and semi will be scheduled to drive in heavy duty. Barricades are set up on the Valkney crossing. That was discussed at a transportation meeting a little while back. Somebody had moved the barricades, so we've put them back to make sure they're there so that we have done our part in saying that is closed. We're going to check on them from time to time and put them back if need be, just to ensure that we have done everything we can to limit our liability.
Cement wall.
It's been discussed. It may have to go that way, but certainly for now, at least we'll try this. Rear tire was installed on the 7330. There's a bit of a story there, but in the end, the correct tire was installed, and the tractor is working again. That, if you haven't heard what happened, they were clearing snow in Bonito. They say there was an existing cut on the sidewall of the tire. After snow clearing, once it was parked for the day, that cut opened up. The tire ruptured and sprayed fluid all over the other tractor, so they had to wash the other tractor to get the fluid off, and then had to replace the tire and the fluid. 2 loads of sand have been hauled to Bonito from the Swan shop. That is the pile of sand that's in the cold storage building that needs to come out of there before it just leaks all over the place because it has salt in it, so it can't be left in there, so it's being removed away. Rims for one-ways are on back order at Cal Tire. My understanding is we still have 1 spare left. Don't quote me on that, but I believe we still have a spare. We have had some damage, obviously, but with the V-plows on a couple of the units now, there won't be any troubles with one-way wheels at the moment anyway. There's been a discussion on ditch clear roads 226, 157 by a ratepayers location there. That was a meeting that a couple of us were at. It's probably going to come up in committee reports a little more, is what was discussed. And I believe in committee reports, there's a document there for council's review on that as well. Not that I can answer any, but are there any questions on the Public Works report? Hearing none, we'll continue on with the resolution. We'll call the question. Those in favor of receiving the report? That is carried. Completed 5, so we will skip ahead 6. We have no petitions tonight. We'll go into general business of the meeting. Is there no minutes? Did I miss them again? Oh, yeah, I missed them again.
Okay, I was gonna ask.
Okay, we'll go to 3. I wonder how I do that every meeting. What's the thing?
The number 3?
I just don't know. Be it resolved that the minutes of the regular council meeting held March 14th, 2023 be adopted as presented. Is there a mover? Councillor Neely, and a seconder, please. Councillor, did I see your hand?
Sure.
Yeah, Kushniryk. The meetings are available there for you to review. Has everyone had a chance to look at them already? Does anyone see any errors or omissions in the minutes? Looks fairly straightforward, I believe. Does anyone want some more time? Everybody's good?
Okay.
We'll call a question then. Those in favor? That is carried. Now let's go to 7.1. Rural Animal Control Officer, I have a resolution here. A resolve that we accept the resignation of the Rural Animal Control Officer with regrets. Is there a mover? Councillor Neely, and a seconder, please. Councillor Zbirun. There's a letter of resignation attached. It's private, so only council can see it. He says, I resigned from Animal Control Officer as of March 31st, 2023. That's about all it says. Any discussion, questions? If not, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. To 7.2 we go, Town of Swan River invoice. We'll start with the resolution, then I know there's some discussion to be had here. Resolve that payment be authorized for the final installment for Town of Swan River 2022 purchase services, the amount of $58,922. Is there a mover? Councillor Burick, and a seconder, please. Councillor Kushniryk. Copy of the invoice is attached. So there's a couple things about this. Councillor Neely, do you want to start off with your concerns about the fire?
Well, yeah, I mean, back about 4 months ago, I believe you gave us a figure of $98,000 is what it was gonna cost. Then we got this invoice from them, well, it's dated September, but we got it, I don't know, November or December or something like that, for $109,500. Now it's $129,356. That's $31,000 difference for fire protection. Increase, not a credit.
The wrong
either.
way for exchange.
I mean, the whole shared services is down $127,000 from the previous quote that they gave us, which is a good thing. But I guess I'm picking on fire here because it was such a jump up, you know.
So I noticed we're still in this particular one agreeing that they're contributing to the fire truck replacement reserve, which I certainly would question a little bit because of the agreement we've reached with them about their new fire truck. I wonder if it's appropriate for us to be contributing to that anymore. Or if that should
Well,
be
this is
removed.
from the previous year though, right? So,
But
I
it's
don't
for a
know.
truck they're
I don't
buying
know,
now.
I know what
I
you
think-
mean.
yeah.
I agree with you.
I think we should have, I spoke to Mayor Jacobson earlier today about another concern I had in this, and said that we certainly should have our committees meet. And I think we should review that particular detail with them and see if that was appropriate or not, because certainly my belief is that should be removed, and they might have a different view on that, but I would think that should come out and would solve a lot of that increase.
At least half of it if we're gonna be partners.
Yes. Yes, because ultimately, those reserve funds shouldn't be used towards that new truck.
No,
Because of the agreement we reached with them on the new truck. So if it's for something else, I suppose, maybe,
if it
but,
was their reserve funds, fine, but
yes,
it's
it's our
shared.
shared reserve funds,
We own 40% of the reserves,
yes.
roughly.
Okay, so I wonder, could you, in our list of things to do, note down that we wish to ask that question? Because we'll end up at committee here in a few weeks and we'll make sure it's on the agenda. The other thing I saw is, well, it's a small miracle, perhaps a big one. The landfill made money, which is the first time I can ever remember a landfill making money.
Yeah.
So I've checked into that a little bit. What I understand is that there was a one-time occurrence of contaminated soil from Saskatchewan being deposited into the Swan River landfill, which brought in a substantial amount of tipping fees in the order of hundreds of thousands of dollars.
That's listed here, but it doesn't say what it is, it's just outside or something like
Yeah.
that.
Which is great. The trouble is, and this is what I was speaking to the mayor on previously, the landfill made $328,098.65 last year. And typically, we split the cost of it because it usually loses money. So we look at how many kilograms and how many people, and we have a formula for how we determine who pays for the losses. The formula, of course, doesn't provide for a mythical other to pay losses because there's only the two of us that are part of it. So when there's losses, those losses are paid by the two partners. But in this particular calculation, they've recalculated so that the profits are split three ways. So the town receives some of the profit, we receive some of the profit, but this other, which doesn't exist, receives $233,000 of profit from the landfill. So we'll chalk that up to a calculation error at this point until we have a discussion about that, because I certainly would like to know where the $233,000 is going, because it should be going between the town and us, not to someplace else on its profit.
Where do you, oh, there at the bottom,
Yeah, very
71%.
Because really, between the town and Swan Valley West should add up to 328. So both those numbers should increase significantly.
Other, yeah, what is other?
That's going
is-
back to Saskatchewan. They made them, they made them a fantasy recipient of that money.
And we're gonna fix that.
We should be getting 40% of the total.
Yes. And there's something else that we're certainly going to look into a bit. So my understanding of our agreement is that twice a year, we conduct surveys at the landfill for where stuff comes from. And certainly that was conducted in May, it was conducted again in November, which is normal, but I note that in August, miraculously, a third survey was conducted, which happened to coincide with the days that there were substantial amounts of influx to the landfill from one of the partners, but not the other one, which has substantially affected the calculation percentage. Because normally we would not end up paying only 1.4% of the losses of the landfill. But in this particular calculation, we're only receiving 1.4% of the profit, even though typically we would pay a far larger share of the
30%,
deficit.
like
Usually
they
30%.
hang around
Yes.
there.
Yeah. So we need to have a little discussion about how there got to be a third survey period that happens to skew those numbers so dramatically.
You know, this
It would be
third
great if we only ever paid 2%.
This
but
third party is,
yes.
so that whole work should be divided up 70-30 roughly.
So
13 million pounds they put in the dump box.
yeah,
6 million kilograms. There's 5,000 of unreal.
so I did speak to the mayor. I suggested to him that what we would likely do is pay the bill, so it's done, but that we had concerns about those areas. And we would like to further discuss them with them and determine the correct amount and then credit that into the 2023s. Because certainly, I don't think we want to just say goodbye to those outstanding amounts. There's some issues there that need to be resolved. So as council, we can either table this, discuss them with them some more, or we can pass it tonight and send them a check. Kind of council's decision on what you want to do.
Well, my opinion is they're not gonna not do it if it's agreed to do it, right? If down the road. I mean, and we've already done fairly well on shared services for 2022, in my opinion, compared to what it started at.
Compared to the initial amount.
Yeah.
Yes.
If we could do something about that $40,000 for the fire truck reserve account, and something about this landfill, that'd be a pretty good chunk of cash as a credit for us. I don't want to say that we're not gonna pay them their bill. I don't know about you guys, but it's already from 2022, it's 2023 now, so.
I'd say pay it and then negotiate.
I have the assurance from the mayor that we're going to sort that out.
Yeah.
There's no question about that.
Yeah.
My view would be we pay it as well, because then, it's paid and we're not holding on to something from last year.
Exactly.
To me, I think everybody here thinks there's going to be a credit coming, and we could apply that to 2023 when we'll probably need a credit.
Yeah, the credit could be bigger than what we're paying here.
Could be,
We're close to it.
might be.
Well, we
If
can't
you look at
not.
the percentage on the landfill alone, it should be bigger than what we're paying.
And the landfill certainly, we'll find out. I don't know, perhaps that's a reserve fund that went into. We just don't know the answer to that yet. Presumably, if it went into a reserve fund, that would lower the overall landfill cost in 2023, because they would have that money.
Yeah, we still get our 30%.
We still get it one way or
whatever.
another. It's just a question of how the accounting works out, but certainly it needs to be accounted for. Because it can't just disappear into thin air.
They're not gonna just say this is the way it's gonna be, we're not budging on it and that's it, or?
I certainly don't get that feeling from them. I think they're going to be. I asked him about it earlier, and he said that they would resolve it. He hadn't
I guess-
yet seen this invoice.
I think I'm thinking like Byron, I don't like paying the bill before it's settled. You know, if I gave you a bill, you wouldn't pay me before we settled on it. But on the other hand, we are doing okay on shared services. Maybe in the nature of good faith, it's, we do it.
There's gonna be another bill next year, we
Yeah.
can, we can
That's right,
settle,
Yeah,
we can
that's
settle
what,
the
I mean,
difference
it's
next
not
year,
like
right?
we're dealing with somebody that's gonna be
If-
gone next week.
If we
That's right.
stick to our word, it's a good handshake agreement. If they don't, we'll remember it.
Yeah.
You know, it's,
Well, the fire part, that sort of ticks me off. You know,
Yeah.
it's like $30,000 more than what the goal is.
Are you okay, Pat?
I didn't,
Okay.
I did write
No, that's okay.
down
That's okay.
all the expenses from here and from the previous one, but, I mean, I'm not gonna go over that right now, but I did it for my own.
Councillor McGregor, what's your thoughts?
Well, I think if there's, not much of a difference, we better find out what's going on. It's a lot of money.
How do you feel about writing them the check for the invoice now and then picking it up as a credit in 23? Or do you want to hold off and not write a check yet?
I think just get straightened out first.
Okay? How do you folks want to resolve the question?
I'm willing to pay it, and then we'll just settle it later on. Because you said it's 2020, 22? 2022?
22, yes.
Not like we don't have leverage on them if we wanna get stubborn and they get stubborn about these differences here, well, we have some leverage down the road.
We can deduct it off 23 if we have to.
That's exactly what I'm
Yeah,
saying,
like
you know.
it's I don't get that feeling from them.
I don't,
think-
I hope that wouldn't come to that, but
I think the fire thing's an oversight. I think the landfill, because the calculation has never been profitable. It was never thought of.
yeah,
That
there's
the
that.
calculation didn't work once it
There's
was
bonus, they
profit.
didn't know how to put it on the plus side. Not in the system.
I think that by paying it, we're being the bigger person, extending we're gonna trust you. Let's see how it works.
Yeah.
Well, if our Reeve can guarantee us that he's gonna,
He's offered to
Deal.
pay it if it doesn't work
yeah,
out. That's really what it
he's
is.
gonna be good for it if the town isn't.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
I'm in favor.
I can guarantee you if they don't honor it, I'm not buying my next sofa from the mayor. All right, so we'll call the question then. Those in favor? Those opposed? Did you go for favor or opposed? Okay, that is carried.
Need help to lift your arm up on that one?
7.3 Boundary Road Agreement. We don't have a resolution here. This is more of a discussion. So this is a copy of the Boundary Road Agreement that was in place with St. Philip's. So the question to council, of course, is expired at the end of 2021. Would anyone have a problem with us asking these folks to renew this and then bring it back to council for signatures?
Do
It's generally agreeable.
Yep, yep.
Just question.
Sure.
This is all south of 49, right?
Yes.
49 to the border. right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll have staff speak to them about that and work on getting it sorted out. Into 7.4 we go. We have quotes for repair now. You'll remember this was here before with a quote from Only Northview Service. We now have a quote from GK Service as well. So repair quotes, one is for unit 38. This is the half ton. It doesn't require a safety, but certainly you don't want the ball joints falling off either.
Typically, no.
Typically not a great idea. So some work obviously does need to be done there. So the two quotes, of the two of them, the one from GK is $17,1140 plus tax. Northview is $32.88 plus tax. So GK is quite a little bit less expensive. Questions, comments? We could bring a resolution tonight to approve that and get the work done. What's the feeling of council?
Like a GK's like?
I'm thinking it's a lot cheaper.
I guess go for the cheapest one.
Okay.
Cheaper one, I should say.
If we peek into repair quotes 2, this again is quotes from both vendors. This is for what we would call the garbage truck, I suppose, is the easiest way to refer to it. So again, it does require a safety. It's a F550, so it's big and required. There's the two quotes here from Northview. Total is $39,6207 plus tax. GK is 1192 plus tax. So again, quite a substantial difference. Certainly it's not all of the same repairs either. My understanding was that GK, when they didn't find as much wrong, did have the details of what was supposed to be fixed from the other quote to say, well, are you sure these things aren't broken too? And determined that there was not as many repairs to do to the unit. Can GK do safeties? Will it have a safety
Don't
there?
believe so. But we paid for the safety already, so I think unless safeties have changed, I think the re-inspect is included.
Okay. I'm just wondering if once we do this work, at the one place where it goes back for re-inspection, the other place they say, well, these things still don't pass, then where are we left?
What are we talking for difference? Quite a bit, isn't it? 44 to 1200.
Yes.
Mind you, the repair list is quite healthy and a bigger one.
I suppose an option would be to do the work on the cheaper one first and then go for the re-inspection, and if there's still things that needed to be done, we could look at it at that point.
The half ton doesn't need a re-inspect, right? 'Cause
No,
we don't
the
need
half
safety.
doesn't need anything else.
So it's,
My opinion, because we have employees driving that vehicle, we should have a safety every year.
Huh?
For $100 or whatever it is, it's, you know, to me, I mean, if it was your own personal vehicle, different. But we have people driving it and we own it and
So to be clear, you wanting the safety certificate passed, or you just wanting it to do a safety inspection and do whatever the work is and call it done?
for the half ton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
want an actual pass certificate at the end of the day? Or do
Well,
you-
I don't think you don't have to have a certificate on it.
No, like what they did was they did the inspection, they said, here's everything that was defective. So do you want us to fix that and be done, or fix it and carry on and get the safety certificate stuck on it?
Well, I think it should be safety, like you have to safety.
So get the actual
I think we should have a
Do it all.
certificate on
Okay.
it, I think, just to
Because,
show.
you know.
No, I just want to understand what we're
Yeah.
wanting,
I
so,
have some young fella driving it somewhere or something and the wheel falls off, you know, like,
okay? That's the
That's
general
fine.
feeling of everybody? I think I see a lot of nods around the room, okay? So then, do you want to send both of these to GK first? Do the work, then we'll take them back and attempt to finish the safety? And see if there's anything still defective, we can make a decision at that point what to do?
yeah,
or
Okay.
do it that way, yeah.
yeah.
Or split them in half, I guess. I don't know, like, the one list doesn't have as much on as the other one. And the one quote.
Where on the budget, do you know when it's time to purchase a new half ton or no?
Not this year.
Because I keep hearing over and over that it need a new truck.
About 3 years ago.
They probably needed one several years ago, although, the particular unit 38 was rated, I think, at a $14,000 value just a year or two ago by the previous council, and they wanted the LUD to pay for it. They said it was in particularly good shape, and the LUD should pay quite a lot of money to receive it. I don't know if the LUD agreed with that, but, I guess there's two separate questions. One should have been replaced probably a year or two ago. One, can we afford to replace it? Might be next year.
That would have been post its last oil change. So it was after that.
The resolution be it resolved that the council of the municipality of Swan Valley West approve the quotes for repair to unit 38 and 203 from GK Service in Benito. Is there a mover? Does anyone wish to move the resolution?
Is that on 203 or
Isn't it 203?
is that the half ton?
38 and 203. Isn't it both?
Oh, so we're gonna send them both to one place then? That, or we?
So far, we might change it. If you
Oh,
want
oh.
to change it, talk about it. Let's decide what we're doing for sure.
Send them GK, I'd say.
I guess so.
Yeah.
The thing is, that if Northern did the safety, we take it to GK and he doesn't think that all the stuff that Northern says needs to be fixed gets done, and then we take it back to Northern to finish the safety, and they say, oh, you never did this, so they're not gonna pass the safety, right?
Worst case, we would just have to get that done.
So
I don't know what's missing.
Take this estimate that Northern given, take it over to GK and say, this is what we all want done?
What I
There's a big
understand is, when the lists weren't the same when they came back, that was already said, but here's the list of work that was said from the other place, are you
Yeah.
sure these things aren't broken?
Yeah.
And the answer was, I couldn't find anything wrong with some of those things.
Okay, okay. No, then let's take it to GK and let them fix it.
So the resolution as it's written right now, be it resolved that the council of the municipality of Swan Valley West approves the quotes for repair to unit 38 and 203 at GK Service in Benito. Is there a mover? Councillor Zbirun and a seconder. Councillor McGregor. Any further discussion on the resolution? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. 7.5 mower blade quotes. Council's being presented tonight with quotes from the Flaman group of companies. This is for the spring Schulte mower blade program. We're understanding that these represent a discounted price because it's this time of year. We have the opportunity to buy them. So it's a bunch of blades, essentially 48 each for left hand wing and a center wing, 24 for a right hand wing, because we only have one mower that has that, not two, so there's only half as many there. And then the bolts and nut kit for them, so we're using new bolts and nuts as is required by the manufacturer. Total amount is $9,893.18. Does council wish to go ahead with that tonight?
We just got the one quote on that, didn't
We did.
And these are the blades that are on sale, like,
These are sail blades. I
No.
believe, go
You're
ahead.
saying it's just for the one mower or
So this is for both mowers.
both
but
mowers?
We have, the one mower has a left hand and a center
Right.
wing. The other one has all three.
Right.
So there's 48 of the two and 24 of the one that we only have one mower of that wing,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
I see the price.
Essentially, it's 24 for each mower.
Selling us $39, regular 58 to $60.
So it's a fairly
Pretty
substantial
good
discount.
price, that's 35% off. I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Hang on, let me write it first.
Got a resolution there? Hurry up.
trade that one with that other one over there.
You like them chocolate ones? I read them, they're no good for Brad, I know that.
Be it resolved that the council of the municipality of Swan Valley West purchase the mower blades as quoted by Flaman Sales. Moved by Councillor Neely, seconded by Councillor Burick. Any discussion of the resolution? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. 7.6 gravel hauling agreement. Sample agreements provided there. In fact, already has signatures from the other side. This was the result of the tender we did for gravel hauling. We did not have anyone bid the tender as we had intended it. We had one company, Cook Brothers, bid the tender at an hourly rate instead of a fixed rate for the hauling. So this was recommended to us by Mr. Bobbick. The terms and conditions are as our tender would normally provide, except that there's then hourly rates here. For 6 axle, 5 axle, and 3 axle units, $152 an hour, $135, $120, and loading for $1.50 a yard. These rates are the Manitoba heavy duty construction rates for 2022. So they're the standardized rates that contractors would typically charge in a contract. What is the feeling of council on this?
Well, I guess, how do we know the hours?
So what we have discussed with
Yeah,
the
GPS.
contractor is GPS. They would still, we wouldn't be exclusive to the GPS, we would make them do the sheets still. But we would perhaps spot check sheets, pick a few random sheets, check that day, make sure it matches. If that day doesn't match, then start checking all of the days.
And like you and I were talking the other day here, we were coming back to town, they can bring a load.
Yes.
You know, each night, each truck can bring a load close to town on their way home.
Yep.
Cause they're coming home anyways, and we're gonna have to pay for that. Might as well have a load truck.
Well, and certainly when they're in the Alpine area, we can bring some of that Alpine gravel down to some roads that need it.
Get 158 out by the airport.
You want none at all on that one? We can,
Hey, don't record that.
are we generally agreeable to doing this? I have a resolution, we'll start the resolution, and more discussion if needed. Resolved that the gravel hauling agreement for the 2023 season be approved, and be it further resolved that the Reeve be authorized to sign the agreement with Cook Brothers Cartage Limited. Is there a mover? Councillor Burick, seconded by Councillor Kushniryk. Discussion on the resolution? Anything else?
I guess, do we have GPS units on the way then, or how long does it take to get them?
Takes about 3 weeks, so we should probably order them soon. Just to have them.
June 5th, I see you. Start all
There has been some discussion, they may start the last couple days of May if they can. I can share that we think we found a little bit more gravel, and there's a couple optional piles that we're just finding out about if we can purchase them or not, so that'll be coming towards council soon. Also, the gravel map is behind you, so tonight at some point if you want to take a look during the break, the roads are marked. We have about 50 miles worth of gravel left that's not marked. So if you have some very favorite roads that are important, we can add them to the list. But the suggestions from the operators are there tonight for where they believe the gravel needs to go. Not hearing any further discussion, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. 7.7 landfill quotes for material. So you heard about this a little bit earlier on in the Public Works report. This is for cover material for the Bonito landfill. We need to have something out there, and we're holding up production right now. We already approved a contractor to attend the landfill and do the compacting and shaping and all the things we're supposed to do, but there's nothing to cover it with. So this is for bark and sawdust from Spruce Products. They're quoting $500 per 53-foot trailer, FOB SPL, and then there's an additional quote from Intermountain Contracting to transport that material from Spruce Products to the landfill. So it's $1,100 for the 2 trips, $550 each. So the total here we're looking at is $1,000 plus $1,100, $2,100. This should be enough to do the initial cover and then carry on with the weekly coverings that we're supposed to do until such time as everything's thawed out and we can perhaps use some of the clay and such that's there.
So we buy it from Spruce and Intermountain hauls it.
Yes. Our understanding is Intermountain is the only folks with the trailer that can
Walking
unload it.
sort.
Yeah, and which is needed.
I'll move we do this.
Be resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West accept the quotes from Spruce Products Limited and Intermountain Contracting for landfill cover at the Bonito landfill. Moved by Councillor Neely. Is there a seconder? Councillor McGregor, I see that first. Further discussion on this? If not, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. 7.8, your chance to smell pretty. I'll start with the resolution and then I think we'll ask Councillor Kushniryk to explain this a little bit. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West approve the purchase of flowers to beautify Kenville and Bonito using the existing pots for an approximate cost of $1,400. Is there a mover?
Come on, Byron, come on.
And a seconder. So, Mr. Kushniryk, if you could explain a little bit to us of what's happening here.
Well, I guess in prior years we've had flower pots around Bonito and Kenville. Lynn's greenhouse has filled those for us in the past. We can reuse the existing pots. Kenville has their own, Bonito has quite a few pots kicking around. The cost from Lynn's is $60 per pot. She's already ordered the flowers. So I guess it was kind of like a standing thing where she just went ahead and did this and we just picked up the pots and paid the bill. She just invoiced the municipality. So I guess in nature of not sticking her with flowers, we're recommending that we do this again with her and have 12 pots for Bonito and 10 for Kenville.
Brian will remember this. We used to have a budget for beautification. I forget the amount, it might have been $1,500 or $2,000. I don't remember the amount.
Something like that, yeah.
For Kenville.
Yeah,
back in the day.
Yeah.
Okay, so, I mean, this isn't new.
I
Yeah,
think
no.
all I know of it is there was some discussion a few weeks ago of some of the ladies on the LUD committee were tempted to grow the flowers because they thought they could grow their own flowers and fill the pots. But then the conversation went on to, well, did anybody order flowers? So when we checked to say, well, did we order flowers? Because if we ordered flowers is a problem, we found out that there's an order that's just done without anybody asking. So the flowers were already ordered someplace else, even though nobody from council had ever said, we want flowers this year. But we don't necessarily want to leave them with $1,400 of flowers.
Possibly been going, like, for
This is not very
going
fair.
on so many years that
Yeah.
Who looks after them, Brad? Like, who looks like the
Who
water,
waters
the
them?
weeding and that? Who, ladies there or
Uh,
private owners?
the businesses should generally look after the ones we place in front of. The
Front,
other ones
okay.
should be the town workers. We
Like a
will,
green team?
could be green team as well. We'll have to probably address that a little bit.
Yeah,
And I
They
think-
always used to.
We used to. There is actually in the one shop, there is a water tank with pump and everything to go around and do it.
You will remember your son used that.
I don't, but I'll take your word for it.
the people that supply the flowers for the office here, don't they water them too during the summer?
I've never been at
I'm
this.
pretty sure
office.
they do.
Yes.
Don't they? Yeah,
well,
they-
they used to.
They're substantially more expensive though,
Oh, okay,
because we pay for the privilege of them watering them.
oh, okay.
Yeah, the maintenance in Benito, be it Green Team or whoever, always looked after the watering.
And I
In
believe
Benito.
in Kenville, there's a volunteer or two there that do it. I don't think we send our own maintenance staff to Kenville, I think someone there waters.
No, I just asked them.
Yeah, Kenville apparently completely looks after theirs.
Well,
They know where they go.
Betty the med tech likely has something to do with it.
Could be.
She used to.
Any further discussion on this?
No.
Not, we'll call the question, those in favor? That's carried. That wraps up section 7, we'll head now into section 8, financial items, general checks. Council's presented with a list of checks here tonight. We'll start off with the resolution, then we'll get into some discussion on them. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. General checks number 18749 to 188. Nope. Let's try again on that number. 18749 to 18770. The amount of $178,653.33. Is there a mover? Councillor Kushniryk, and a seconder, please. Councillor Neely. Let's discuss checks. Here, in this folder, a few notable things to get us started. The library is broke. That's the oversimplification. So I texted council about this earlier on, so you knew it was coming tonight. Earlier on Friday afternoon, we were contacted by the Northwest Regional Library. They were unable to make payroll, so they couldn't pay their staff, nor could they pay their hydro bills. That has certainly been a cause for concern, probably for two reasons, and the obvious one is they couldn't pay the staff. Our understanding is that they had a surplus amount coming out of last year of somewhere around $90,000. And then there's obviously a flooding issue happened at the library, last summer. That's being repaired. So before insurance kicked in, they had paid for the initial cleanup out of library funds. That's to be reimbursed by the insurance company, but hasn't been yet. So there's been some expenditures there, and from talking to the library, around $12,000 was expended on these flood cleanup costs, which doesn't explain the rest of the 90, because it should have lasted longer than now, and we don't know why it didn't. They haven't been able to shed any light yet on why they're out of money, and certainly from speaking to our library rep earlier, he was unaware they're out of money. The town spoke to their rep had also not been told they're out of money. They did approach the town of Swan River Friday as well, because this was a quite substantial issue. So we have the first meeting of the two municipalities. So we agreed that we would advance them $10,000 on their grant this year, because we know there will be a grant. We just don't know the amount yet until we see their budget. 10 was enough to get them through for a couple weeks, while some questions could be asked about exactly what was happening and why they're out of money. So we did write the check already yesterday morning, and the CIO and I signed it so they could make those payments today that they needed to make. So that's why you're all informed of this back on Friday, this was coming. So it's here tonight in these checks, kind of after the fact. This is certainly not being seen as additional money to them. This is written as an advance on their grant. So they will not be receiving an additional $10,000 from us. This is simply a prepayment towards what we normally pay. Last year, I believe the amount was around $70,000 we paid towards the library. So that's that check. There's also a check to the Receiver General 18764 for just under $7,000. That amount comes from what appears to be an issue in our Paymate program. There was one employee that for some reason in Paymate for all of last year was classified as CPP exempt. So deductions were not being made from the employee and we were not remitting them on their behalf. We caught that when we were doing the T4s that we just finished up. So we were forced to report on that person's T4 that none of those deductions had been made. Of course, that isn't in keeping with the law in Canada. So the CRA would like us to give them the money that we should have been giving them all along. That's the $7,000 check that's presented tonight. It includes both the employer and employee share, which we would always have to remit. We are going to sort out the employee share and have it deducted like it should have been, probably in conjunction with the signing of the new union contract so that it happens with the back pay and isn't leaving an employee short on cash. From our understanding, though, the employee did receive additional pay each month last year they shouldn't have, that should have instead been going to the government. So we'll sort that out. Any other questions on checks tonight?
Just that first one, what are those initials stand for?
ALS Environmental.
EFT payment,
Oh, EFT. So
employee something?
electronic funds transfer.
Online payments,
So we pay, for
Hydro.
example, hydro,
hydro, telephone, credit card.
to give some security to our accounts. You've probably heard of the Westlake Gladstone issue where they lost several $100,000 out of their bank account. So the way we do our account right now is that there's no online access to our main bank accounts for anybody, not even staff here. The only account that can be accessed online is a clearing account for electronic funds transfers. We keep no more than $20,000 in the account. So essentially the account starts at $20,000, we pay those bills out of it.
But more.
Then we write a check back into that account. The only way to put money into that account is by check. The only way to take it out is funds transfer. So should we be hacked, our total possible loss is $20,000 rather than whatever's sitting in the account. That's, you'll quite often see those checks every month or two replenishing the account. Any other questions? There was, there's a 18767 from RM Ellingson. That amount is more than simply the work we had them do this year for T4s. They discovered there was an invoice from September that had not been paid. So that is also paying that September invoice that was outstanding. That was work that had been requested by previous council, obviously. Anybody else? Any other checks? On the topic of finance, I can report that our new finance officer has been diligently at work. The October bank statements are done, reconciliations are done, they'll be coming to council. They didn't quite make it tonight, but they'll be at our next meeting. November is almost done, they're beginning December as well, which directly impacts budgeting. So I did meet with the CAO and the finance officer late last week. I believe it was last
Yes,
week.
it was Friday.
It was on Friday, to discuss budgeting, because we obviously need those actual amounts from 2022 as we go into budgeting. They should be available for us by our next meeting, perhaps even before. As soon as they're available, I'm going to get them posted so that folks can look at them already and start thinking about what changes you'd like to make, and then we can have some budget meetings and go line by line through the accounts, see what we spent last year.
Good idea, line by line,
Yes.
and everybody knows what we're talking about,
Yeah.
don't just take a section.
I think we'll do line by line, unless, it'll take a little while, but I think it's worth it, especially when we're mostly new here, we should go line by line through it all.
You know what that means then, you know, like, if it's a certain term, you don't,
Yeah.
what is that, you know?
Yeah. We'll do the line by line after that, and then we'll roll it into the financial plan, which is sort of a generalized version of it. And we can still make changes if we need to, but we'll start with that, we'll roll it up to the other one, and we should be mostly done at that point. I would think we're probably a couple evenings out of it at least when we're doing line by line. But we'll just start out, we'll get through whatever we do within a couple of hours so we're not here too crazy late and get our numbers confused. And then go from there.
1 o'clock in the morning is out of the picture then.
Well, you know, if you prefer, we could certainly do that, but you're
We
bringing
used
the
to have
notice.
some meetings that were like 1 o'clock.
No further discussion on this resolution, approving the checks. If not, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. There are no discussion items tonight. As you can tell, we discussed some things previously. I wasn't making agenda this week at all, so nothing was in discussion. I always put it in discussion. CA always puts it in general business. So good job for the CAO getting their agenda
One
done.
step ahead of you.
She was.
He's just going on
Got
right
the
now
fi-
so he gets some discussion in.
CAO's got final say when it comes to the
Yeah.
agenda.
Kind of whoever gets there first.
We'll go to 10-1, the canoe rebate. This is the Manitoba
Trade company.
Trade Company ML. So the AMM Trading Company, in any case that you hear about at the AMM conventions. So Canoe is the folks that are the national version of the AMM local. We purchase what we can there. There are rebates, obviously. They try to get better prices on things, bulk purchasing and such. Practical upshot is that they have provided a rebate of $1 million to municipalities throughout Manitoba this year. Our share of that rebate is $8,042.76. We've received the check and it has been deposited. 10-2, Swan River Curling Club. These folks approached me last week. They are applying for a grant for the Spruce Up Your Story grant. So what's provided here tonight is a copy of the support letter that I sent them. We discussed previously that when something came across the desk that needed a response, I would send a letter and bring it forward to council so you could see what was sent out under our name. Essentially, it just commends the board of directors for their foresight in applying for the grant and says that we support them. From what I understand, they are hoping to replace the carpet upstairs. And this grant is from one of the insurance companies. I believe it was Wawanesa. That's where they're applying. I see nothing under section 11 for unfinished business tonight, so we'll move to section 12, committee reports. Note to council that when someone, either Deputy Burick or myself, gets to it, the flood meeting maps are attached to this, but they're private, but they're there if you want to take a look at them at some point during the discussion. We will start with Councillor Zbirun tonight.
Transportation meeting. Plus, I took a drive out through Alpine and stuff like this. You can't see a culvert. You wouldn't know which one is gonna get plugged until, I guess it gets plugged. So,
Be a little bit of trial and error.
yeah, I think so. I know where there's some that, I mean, they're obvious that, but, I went way back, right up against, like, where, I don't know if you know where Bob Hamlin lived and whatnot, but I mean, you can't see nothing, there's too much snow. You don't know whether if there's a little dip, whether there's a culvert there or not, so. Yeah, that's my,
I'm hoping prior to the melt, we're gonna get these phones so that we can get somebody answering this phone on the weekend and evenings during the melt. So there's somebody calls the office, they get somebody rather than call the office and then try and find one of us or try and find somebody. We're trying to get that fixed up so that there's, you know, dial the number, somebody will answer, even if it's not a person that helps. At least they can get the message to the right people.
We should stay for the next week to 10 days.
I think so.
Did we have, there was an answering machine, used to be before, I don't know if it's like that now, that when nobody answers the phone, they have press 1 for Reeve, 2 for Ward 1, whatever, Ward 1, Ward 3, Ward 4, up to 6.
There's an answering machine and there's also an option that gives out all of our phone numbers. So if you press the number, it reads you each councillor's name and their phone number.
Right.
But
Do we have
certainly
that still?
it's in there and it has been updated.
It's updated to include the new company.
That was done. So that's workable. Ideally, even if it just has to go to my cell phone for a week or two, just so that somebody always answers.
Yeah.
Because I would rather somebody be able to just call the one number and get to somebody rather than getting frustrated. Councillor Kushniryk, you're next.
So I would have had Union and LUD. Union, I guess we'll likely be discussing a little bit in camera. LUD was fairly basic. We discussed the flower concerns, a little bit more about garbage truck. The girls are gonna look at a grant that's come out where they can possibly apply for a grant to have some sort of united, an event or something that shows unity, inclusion, stuff like that in the community. And that's about it.
Councillor McGregor.
Well, I confess to being a little swiped by that conversation the other day. There was, a while ago I had talked to you about the paving issue at Benito. Now, I dug into that a little more. That was supposed to be some warranty work there's some issues back there. So, I guess it was Sterling Paving that had done the work, and they were wondering if there was any way we can shake the cage a little bit and get it done.
So you want my blunt answer?
I'm asking, I wasn't here when it was done, so
I was probably kicking around, but we'll check into it.
Okay.
Certainly we've had a lot of discussion between the town and ourselves in the last couple of days about how the library could have run out of money and not be able to pay its bills.
Yeah.
One of the discussions that came up is that the library has been quite strongly of the opinions they don't want councils meddling in their business.
Just
So-
for money.
Just their money. We'll explore the paving issue with them, because if they don't want us meddling, it's great they want us to help them with that, but we'll see what we can do. Certainly, we'll probably get Mr. Bobick to speak to them and understand what the issue is, because Mr. Bobick has a pretty good relationship with Sterling, and he could maybe then speak to the other side and see what the plan is.
Okay.
Can you write down a list for Mr. Bobick to do that?
Okay,
Is this work that they did that they're fixing up already, that they got paid for, or what's this?
I think from the sound of
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
On
warranties.
the west side of the library.
yeah. And there were some quotes submitted for library expansion and shelving and stuff, but I confess I'm a little concerned if they can't make payroll while we're looking at shelving, but.
So I was there yesterday to deliver the check, because I thought perhaps it would be good to deliver the check in person and hold on a little bit and say, so, tell me more.
Yeah.
So I did take a tour of the library and was shown where they need to purchase $7,000 of shelving, which I can't just show up at those meetings to ask those questions, but you certainly can ask those
Yes,
questions.
yes. Trust me, I will be asking some more questions, because this is, I don't know, it's kind of like, well, it is what it is, right? And it's just, I don't think they should be spending the money if they're broke.
I understand they're working on their budget now.
Yes.
And going to try and present a budget shortly for councils to see if we might approve them, giving them some money, so they have some.
But I'm just gonna leave this where it is right now, and I'm going to dig into what's going on here, because as you said, you had talked to Councillor,
I
who's
spoke,
also on the committee for this town, and it's just, there was no warning, nothing about this shortfall.
I spoke to the mayor about it, and his concern that he articulated was that he felt that they were having trouble getting answers in the library. Their counselor that was on the committee said that she'd attended a few meetings now and felt like it was an imposition to ask questions, and that the library didn't necessarily want to share a lot of information, and was giving the distinct impression that we want council's money, but you're not here to run the library, we are. But
What would be, I don't know, maybe it's beyond us to ask it, but I mean, if we're getting a financial statement, should we not see the banking records too, if we're having big advances all the time?
there was some discussion
Or is
between
that
the mayor and I.
overreach, or, like, I'm new at this, so I'm,
Well-
you know,
Ultimately, the way the library works, there's the Public Library Act, And it's a regional library for a reason, because that gets different things under the act. So you are, like in a committee of council, the Reeve can show up anytime. But this isn't a council committee, this is library is a thing. So we are entitled to appoint one of our members to it, and we also appoint members of the public to it. So I believe we have 2 public appointees, am I correct? And 1 councillor, 3 of us total there?
That was used to be two.
Yes. And then the town has 2 public and 1 councillor. So the 6 of you combined are the ultimate decision makers. You have the ability to do whatever you want within that library, and ultimately you have to come back and ask council for money, because the library isn't able to operate on just the grant from the province. If you look to like the other municipalities, Manitoba, Bozeman, their libraries operate only on the grant from the province, but they only get service a day or 2 a week because of it. Because there isn't enough money comes to the province to run what we have for a library here. So there's always some extra money, but we can't directly ask those questions of the library board, whereas as a member you can. Councillor McGregor had indicated he had some paperwork as well that he might be able to share with all of us, and I think we'll get that from him and post it, so we can all take a look at where those finances are at. The mayor and I had discussed that the 2 of us may attend their accountant and ask the accountant to do some explaining of exactly where the library is at, so we understand directly from the accounting folks what's happening. And then our feeling was that likely there would be some movement in the library board to be more transparent with its members. And if there wasn't, we may take further steps to ensure transparency.
Well, yeah, for sure. Because I tell you, it just, I got that message and I was like, what?
It was a little bit of a funny feeling when I walked in there with the check yesterday and the staff were thanking me that they could be paid. And that's not typical of how we like to run our organizations that have anything to do with council. We like to have a little more solid footing than hoping for the best.
Probably you were the best person they saw all day.
They were very happy to see me. Lots of people aren't happy to see me, but they were.
I just feel kind of sideswiped that we weren't informed what's going on, and it was just, I don't know, kind of like getting a kick in the gut, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anything else to report tonight?
No, that's all.
Councillor Blosha is away tonight, so we'll skip her turn. We'll go to Councillor Neely.
Oh, we had labor relations, Brad's already talked about that with the union, so we'll be talking about that a little later, and then we had the transportation meeting, trying to get ready for spring thaw, but it's a little early to get ready, but try and figure out where we might have problems and have people that we can depend on to clean things up. Other than that, I'm sure the rest of you will elaborate on that a little bit more. But other than that, that's it.
Deputy Reeve Burick.
Deputy Reeve, okay, on March 16th, we had a health and safety meeting. There was Bill Wojciech, Councillor Terry Neely, Councillor Carrie Blosha, and myself were present, and we went through all the recommendations that were put on the table from the health and safety officer. And most of them were done, and there was a few that we were working on them.
Yep.
And they will be done.
I think subsequent to that meeting, the fire hall was completed. So that particular one is now done.
The which?
The fire hall mold issue has been resolved.
Oh, it has?
It's done.
So that was on the 16th. On the 17th, we had a transportation meeting that was discussed already. We were just preparing ourselves for snow removal and snow clearing. And on the 22nd of March, we had a meeting. It was requested by a local ratepayer that a few of us, the Reeve and myself and our foreman, and also there was a councillor present from Manitoba, Bozeman. We discussed a water issue on his property, and we just came up with some plans to how to deal with it. And also that situation we brought up to the Swan Lake watershed for summer surveying and just looking at the water drainage situation in that area and seeing what we can do to improve it. Just to inform council that Don Urban started working today on the north end, cleaning pipes and cleaning ditches in places, and Jason Barkman started working yesterday. And I was just wondering, do you think we should have a transportation meeting next week, sometimes just to prepare ourselves for Spring flooding, in case there's a flooding issue, just to know what we're doing, the foreman again, the lead hand, he's new at this, we should maybe update him, or not update him, but
Certainly
include.
we could. I'm away almost all next week,
Okay.
but that doesn't preclude having a meeting.
Well,
I'm at AMM for 3 days and so is the CAO.
yeah,
And then we're
okay.
back Thursday and Friday is Good Friday. So
And when are you back Thursday?
back sometime during the day on Thursday. But
Yeah,
I'd be here for
that'll be
Thursday
late.
afternoon.
What do you think the water will be running by Good Friday?
I don't
No,
think so.
it won't be.
Well, maybe we can have one Monday, you'd say?
Monday's
Or are
a
you,
holiday.
Easter Monday, we're closed there, right?
That's right.
Well, the
Yeah.
CAO isn't.
And
Everybody
Friday
else
is,
is closed.
Friday is Good Friday.
Good Friday.
Yes.
Well, I know Friday is closed, but well,
So
how
we
about
could aim for
Tuesday?
that Tuesday?
Could we plan on Tuesday?
Tuesday's
Just so that,
council meeting.
Yeah, Tuesday's actual council already.
okay, well, do you think,
There's just not a lot of spare days between.
do you think we could discuss, that'd be too much maybe to discuss at a council meeting?
Probably.
Plus the council meeting itself, eh?
Maybe we could start early.
It's gonna be a short council meeting because I
Well, it's gonna be a very short council meeting.
I won't have time to make the agenda.
It's just so that we're all on the same level, eh? If we need sand or sandbags or,
What do you think that it's going to look like?
I
this
don't
spring?
know, it's a slope,
Sandbags?
well, you never can tell. As
Ryan,
long- as long as-
the big guy's gonna look after it.
Yeah, as long as we know where they are, that we need sandbags and we can't find any. I'm just saying we don't need them, but in case we do.
The only
just
place
to
we
prepare
ever get
ourselves.
them was
Like
that.
Bonito could be prone to flooding or water running in the spring from the south. Don't you get it from the south? Pretty
Usually
bad?
goes right through Dale Offenberger's yard.
That's our problem area. Last year they cut the road that, I don't know,
Government road they cut,
yeah, they cut it by the cemetery there.
but then it just piles up in Dale's place.
Yeah,
The reason they cut the road is they pulled the culvert out. Because somebody took sandbags
And plugged it up.
and plugged it up so it wouldn't run through his yard.
What, in Ward 5, where they use 5
That's
gallon
been
pails.
there for
So is
years.
Bonito itself, Brad, prepared for that or not?
nothing, I think we're as prepared as we can be because we haven't changed anything from prior years,
Okay.
right? There is a culvert,
Who plugged it?
Under
the railroad
what's the road?
No,
I don't know.
Matthews,
Is it
By,
Matthews Street? Where Main Street continues down into the country, there's one culvert there that tends to back up.
on the highway.
And of
Just
course,
the
where it's backing up where they cut the
Oh, yeah,
the road.
Yeah.
He plugged that culvert.
Really, we haven't made any changes, so there's nothing more we can do.
Flooded out.
The fix to that has to be done in the summer,
Sure, more of them were.
so.
So I think what we'll do then is, we'll certainly continue discussions with staff
Okay,
and make sure that they have a plan.
okay,
And then we'll have an eye to if it looks like something's changing, maybe we'll aim for Thursday. If the weather forecast changes drastically, right now it doesn't show thawing for a while.
no, it doesn't show anything for,
But we'll watch that closely.
yeah,
And we'll certainly be in touch outside of meetings with council as it starts to melt. We'll likely need all of you to spend some time checking around where you live to make sure that things are okay and looking for problems so we can solve them before they get into disasters.
You say, Don Urban and Jason up in
they were,
six right
Barton
now?
started yesterday and Urban started today,
In 6?
6.
Jason's pushing back snowbanks.
Yeah.
And Urban's
And on
cleaning
the corners,
flags. Yeah,
Jason's doing corners.
Corners and somewheres wherever the snow is on the road, halfway on the road, he's pushing it off so it doesn't melt all, getting it off the road.
And he's not doing the pipes on the
No,
corners then,
no,
right now.
well, he's got a cat that's on,
He always
right
got a
now,
bulldozer.
yeah. But Bart, Urban's got the little backhoe.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Nope, nope, that's it.
Okay, I have one or two things.
Or 6. 1 or 2 or 6.
We'll start with Byron. So the Auditor General was here last week. The Chamber of Commerce front, I can report they are now in their membership drive. The question came up, and I don't, Councillor Blosha isn't here, she'd probably know the answer the best of all of us. A couple of years ago, the town of Swan River began funding the Chamber of Commerce to $8,000 a year. The question was if Swan Valley West was ever asked, and what the response was. The Chamber doesn't have any record of having made the request. So I think we'll wait until Councillor Blosha comes back. I'm going to ask her recollection of that, if she knows it was ever discussed. If it wasn't, Chamber may send a request over. If it was discussed and there was a reason not, then obviously we probably don't need to do that. Swan Valley Rise will meet tomorrow night for the first time since July 22nd, 2021. We have been doing a lot of housekeeping this week, getting ready for that meeting, trying to find minutes and such. If you think Swan Valley West was a disaster, you've seen nothing yet compared to Rise. It appears they couldn't find the password for the online accounts that had all of the documents in them, and so because they didn't know the password and nobody asked anybody, they didn't renew the accounts, so they expired and everything was deleted. There's talk that there may be a backup, so we're currently looking for the backup to see if we can find it. Otherwise, several years worth of the investment in Rise and all the documentation it made and all the research it did on several projects was deleted when nobody renewed the account. So we're working on that. Hopefully it comes back. There's certainly $159,000 and change in the Rise account, so the Rise folks will look into that tomorrow. We'll also be discussing Valley of the Mountains Tourism, which has not met in 3 years or so. The Valley of the Mountains Tourism Board has declined to meet. They feel they cannot meet quorum and have no further interest in attempting. So Rise will be discussing tomorrow if they will take over the tourism group. The tourism group does have $9,000 in the budget, but they can't manage a meeting to decide if they can spend it or not. So that will be discussed. We did have a flood meeting, as Councillor Burick indicated. Minnetonus attended to that as well. So there's some Boundary Road issues there. Some of the flooding is occurring on a Boundary Road. So we're looking at both sides. Swan Lake Watershed will be providing quotes to us for the surveying that needs to be done. That'll show up at council in a few weeks' time, and we can discuss it then. But there'll be some cost to doing the surveying, looking for a longer-term solution for that flooding there. A lot of it has to do with trees having been cut and some landscaping that was done upstream. So the water's coming faster now than it's ever come before, and certainly has caused some issues. On the front of the union, we had announced publicly that we had reached a tentative agreement with our union. Unfortunately, I can report the public version is that the union, even though they had presented us the offer, voted it down when it went to ratification. So while we did ratify the contract, they did not. The rest of that discussion will have to occur in camera, but at this time we do not have a tentative agreement with our union. And last I heard, they were discussing strike action, but there has been no strike vote yet. I met with the Prairie Mountain Health about the CT scanner that we're all quite interested in knowing more about. So I discussed it with them. I attended the meeting with CAO Poole from the town. The mayor was unavailable that day, so I attended on his behalf. They are looking for the $1 million that has been promised to them from the community. So we had a very friendly discussion about the time we see a CT scanner, they'll see $1 million. And I said quite frankly that we know there's an election coming and we're not going to give them $1 million. And then here at election time, well, the new government's priorities are different, but thank you for the donation. We'll give them the $1 million when we see some work done on the CT scanner. So what's going to be recommended shortly is that the $1 million is placed into a GIC account at the credit union, which we will then show them that GIC account for proof of money, because they would like to see some proof the $1 million exists. We'll say, here it is, it's set aside for you, but we're not releasing it to you until we see you building the CT scanner. They have done most of their RFP, they're doing evaluations. What they have not done is any work at the hospital yet to measure the room or finalize plans for where they're putting it. So they certainly have some work to do. They have committed to providing monthly email updates now to us that will tell us the progress. They also provided a timeline for installation, and thankfully you're all sitting. They say it will be 8 to 15 months before they're able to complete the project. But they're hoping for as short as 10 months, but anywhere from 8 to 15 for completion. So that discussion will continue. For a recap on the $1 million, $600,000 of it's coming from Medical Recruitment Fund, $300,000 of it is coming from Health Facilities Foundation, $100,000 of it is earmarked for local fundraising, with an agreement between councils that if the fundraising falls short, the councils will step in and pay for whatever the shortfall was. There was some fundraising done. I do not have the number of how much of the $100,000 was raised, but certainly there have been concerns. You may have heard scuttlebutt about it. There was a donation promised to that. That was a substantial donation, Unfortunately, it backed out when the CT scanner was not completed prior, and they've moved that money someplace else. So at one point, there would have been more than $100,000 donated to the project, but that has since moved on. When Minnetonka's Bozeman was here the other day for the flood meeting, we turned our attention to fire trucks for a moment. They have some interest in the fire truck that we will have for sale, the one that came from the States. So they're having some discussions amongst themselves. I told them what our asking price was for it. They're hoping to get a little better deal, of course, which isn't a surprise, but it never hurts for them to ask. But they are discussing that, so we may hear back from them. We had a head of council meeting. Unfortunately, the mayor and the Reeve from Minnetonka's Bozeman were unable to attend, so I met only with the Reeve from Mountain. But we had an hour and a half discussion about various topics. It was good. There is commitment between the four heads of council to rehold that meeting next week at AMM, because we'll all be there and everyone should be available. So we'd like to sit down for an hour there to discuss a few more points. We did hold a press event following last council meeting for the signing of the memorandum of understanding for the fire agreement, and that was in the paper, so you see some good news on that. And I believe it was Councillor Burick who was said to be wearing a skirt.
Yeah. And pom-poms.
Yes.
For Valentine's Day.
Oh, that's up for
I don't wanna see that.
Yeah.
any questions on my report or any other things that you want to talk about before we go to break? Hearing nothing, the CAO has informed me that once we go in camera tonight, item 12.2.1 is an item that I have a conflict with. I believe she also informed me that Councillor Neely has a conflict with that item.
Okay.
Given that I have a conflict, I will be getting Deputy Burick to chair the meeting. So while I will go to break here, when we come back from that, I won't be here. So I'm going to step out, and then if council could be so kind as to recall me once you're done discussing that item, I'd be glad to rejoin you for 12.2.2, the union concerns, which no doubt will take a little bit of time.
So.
Are you talking 13 or what?
13.1.1?
Oh, sorry, something's gone wrong with my numbering. Mine's showing as 12 right now, but
Oh.
there's that one that says conflicted in-camera item.
Yeah.
That's the one that,
13.11.
okay, I have a conflict with that, so I'm going to step out for it.
You mentioned my name too?
From what I understand, we both have a conflict with that.
Oh.
But you certainly, my suggestion would be speak to the CAO. She can tell you what the item is, and then you can decide on your own if it's a conflict or not.
I'll just leave whatever, I don't wanna be in the middle of something.
Anything else? If not, we will take a recess for 10 minutes. We'll move to section number 15, adjournment. Be it resolved, this meeting shall now adjourn at
Carrie's not here, so I'll help.
11:14 p.m. Be it further resolved, the next meeting is Tuesday, April 11th, 2023 at 7 p.m. A mover, please. I see Councillor Zbirun there. Oh, Councillor Burick.
Ready to roll.
Seconder. All in favor? That is carried. Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening.